All right, my friends, J.R. Dukes. Hope you're doing well today. Thanks for joining me. I am excited about today. We got a lot of news to talk about. I want to extend a heartfelt welcome to all of my free minded friends out there. It's always a pleasure to have an opportunity to have a conversation with you, and I appreciate each and every one of you. First, just a couple of housekeeping things, real quick. Just want to make sure y'all can hear me so that we don't have any technical issues. If you can hear me, if you'd send me a hello or just let me know you can hear me, I would definitely appreciate that. One time I started a live chat and I did not, of course, I was a little bit more of a novice than I am right now. And I started the chat. And of course, I don't know, probably 15, 20 minutes into it, I realized no one could hear me. So I definitely don't want to have that happen again. Kind of learned the hard way on that. So hope everyone's having a great day. Thank you for joining me, all my friends over on Twitter, which I guess is X now. And of course, YouTube is trickling in. We got a couple already there, and Facebook and Twitch. So it is several platforms we're broadcasting on. Always remember to please put your comments in the comments section below. If you are on X or one of the other platforms, I will see your comments as they all filter into the software that I am using. So it looks like everybody's starting to join up right now. So I definitely appreciate that. And hello to American Nana in West Virginia. We appreciate you being with us today. And you're in West Virginia. Okay, good. I know yesterday we had a bunch of people all over the world. It's really amazing how this technology works. I don't want to sound like an old fogey of any sorts, but it is pretty well a major blessing, despite all the problems we have in the world right now. It is really, truly amazing, just all the blessings that we have. We take a lot of things for granted. We don't realize just how good we have it sometimes. And I think it's worth taking a note. We're going to be talking about some heavy subjects today with the New York decision and the Donald Trump case, at least in one of the cases there, the Judge Engoron, at least that's how I pronounce his name, and sweet AG Leticia James, you know how wonderful she is. And then of course we're going to talk about my favorite person in the world, DA Fani Willis out of Fulton County, Georgia, and her lover boy, her boy toy, her prosecutor, Nathan Wade. Interesting developments in that case today, and I thought we would talk about it. And I got some videos and some information for us to go through. One of the things I definitely want to go through today is I do have the decision in the New York case. It's approximately right at, I think it is 92 pages long. We're not going to literally go through every single page, but there are certain sections in there that I want to highlight so that we can all go over it and understand what's going on. I will say that that's one of the reasons it took a while to get this decision out. We all knew this was coming. We all knew this decision out of New York was a done deal. The reason Judge Engoron took his time is he wants to try to make this decision as bulletproof as he can on appeal, because everyone knows, I know that this decision is nothing more than a de facto political interference. That's all it is, folks. It's the Democrats' desperate attempt to stop Donald Trump any way they possibly can. That's all that they can try to do, is try to have Donald Trump stopped cold in his tracks. That's all this boils down to. Kurt, it's good to see you from Detroit, Michigan. Appreciate you joining us today, too. We will have more people popping in as we normally do. So I think yesterday we had 300 people, if you count all the platforms together. So that was a pretty good crowd. Hopefully our crowds continue to grow as time goes on. And generally in these live streams, we always have a few people trickling in and out all throughout the entire live stream. And I think I enjoy doing these more in the evening time. Sometimes I feel like doing more in the morning. I guess it just depends on what's going on. But eventually I'll try to set up some kind of schedule. The best thing to do is always hit the thumbs up button on the subscribe and then hit the notification, obviously, and it will send you a notification when I do go live so that you can join in if you're so inclined. If you have any comments, please don't hesitate to put them in the comment section. I always say at the beginning of any live stream that indeed, if there's not a whole bunch of rules, the only thing I request is that you generally keep the chat clean. Let's just say PG rating. We want to try to all be grown professionals around here. I don't really like a bunch of arguing or a bunch of nastiness to transpire. You don't have to agree with me. That's something else I like to always emphasize. You do not have to subscribe to my opinion. As a matter of fact, I enjoy having a discussion of views and ideas on this channel. The idea here is for us all to fight indoctrination. And I think the easiest way to do that is by a civil, it can be a frank, it can be an edgy discussion, but it does need to be respectful. And we need to, for example, I don't want to see a bunch of F bombs or anything like that. Just normal discussion, I think, will work for each and every one of us. So as you come into the chat again, if you don't mind, looks like a lot of us already hit the thumbs up button. I appreciate that. If you would be so kind as to just make sure if you have any questions, like I said, don't hesitate to leave them in the comment section below. If you have any friends that are suffering from indoctrination, you know the cure for that. Share this channel. Just hit that share button down below and send it to any friend, family member that is suffering with terrible, terrible, terrible indoctrination, because I will definitely solve that problem for you. When it comes right down to it, I always talk about having a free mind. And yes, I am burning up a few minutes of time here before we start this first video right here. I want to give just a few minutes for everybody to trickle in. But the thing is that when you share, when you talk about the subjects, especially current event subjects, it gives you a different way of thinking about it. And what I started to say a minute ago is that when you basically have that free mind, I always talk about free your mind. What does that mean? Well, and just so you know, I was talking free your mind before that song came out. Oh, was that back in the 90s or something like that about free your mind? I don't really mind sharing a little phrase with whomever. It doesn't matter to me. The takeaway is we need to always ask ourselves, why do we do what we do? Why do we believe what we believe? Why do we go to work every morning? Why do we do this? Why do we do that? Most of us live our lives, we don't really think for ourselves. And that's the key. Think for yourselves. Don't believe something just because the news media says you should believe it, especially the legacy media. You definitely want to be very critical of anything that you hear on there. And again, one thing I like about the YouTube platform is it allows us to chat and exchange ideas. The statistics are going in such a way that now more people are watching YouTube than actually watch regular television. In addition to that, you see a lot of the, let's just say, legacy media that is actually shrinking. Their businesses are going down in size and revenue, especially CNN. You may or may not be aware of it, but they left their building, that huge building. I forgot how many stories it is, downtown Atlanta, and they quietly they made it like a celebration. But basically, what they did is they closed that building and they moved up. What is that? I-75. They used to be in a smaller building right there that Ted Turner actually started back in 1980, 1981. So they basically had some excuse for the press article that was written about their move. But here's the reality. The reality is their revenue's down, their viewership is down. People are not biting into the CNN Kool-Aid, so to speak. And you're right. What is that? George Soros. Let me pull up so I can read it myself here. Yeah, is buying up all the videos. Yeah, I'm sure he is. That's another reason why I'm glad that we have the YouTube platform. As I was saying a minute ago, it is projected that in the next year, 5 years, 10 years, you're going to see little channels like mine and channels that maybe are not as little as my channel here. Hopefully the channel gets bigger. By the way, thank you to everyone who has recently subscribed. I've had, I think it was almost 3,000 subscribers in the last 28 days, something like that. It was quite a bit. The channel has grown 400 and some percent in the last month. So that's really, really amazing. And I find it truly humbling. And again, I appreciate everybody for that. So let's go ahead and let's start diving in. As I said, appreciate your comments and I appreciate your patronage. If for some reason something goes out, like the screen goes out or something doesn't work correctly, you can type it in the comment. Let me know. I will monitor the chat as we go through this. But sometimes when you're doing things live, things happen. When we were watching the Willis case, yesterday, I believe once or twice, just whatever feed we were watching just stopped working. It just went blank for whatever reason. And that happens. And generally, when I am trying to monitor an important case like the Fani Willis case out of Fulton County, what I'll generally do is I'll have the tabs already set up with 2 or 3 individual direct feeds. So if one goes down, it just takes a minute or two to turn the other one on. So, at any rate, enough chit chat on that stuff. Let's get right into it. We know the news today, right at the tail end of the day, right before a weekend. You know they do that intentionally. Is the 92-page ruling by what I call nudie Judge Engoron. Nudie Judge, I'll explain that in a minute. You're going to love this little article I found and some photos of Judge Engoron. Can you imagine a judge issued a penalty against our beloved former President Donald Trump for $300 some odd million? Remember, it started at 250 million, 225 million, whatever it was originally. And for whatever reason, sweet Leticia James decides that's not enough money, Judge. We need more money. So she asked for 350, 370. And obviously, it appears that she has received what she has asked for. The irony here, or the craziness here, is this judge is a former cab driver. He is an individual who has taken pictures of himself, at least his torso and whatever, and decided it's a great idea to publish it online. Additionally, this judge has, let's just say, a colorful past, and both the judge and the AG are obviously extremely dedicated Democratic left-wing cuckoo supporters. This has been very well documented. On top of everything else, you got Leticia James, the AG there in the great state of New York. She actually ran on a platform saying, "I'm going to get Trump." And listen, I'm not the kind of person that throws the racist word around. I'm so sick of this racist discussion. As a matter of fact, racism come up today again in the Fani Willis case pertaining to her father. But before I digress, I'm so sick of the racist stuff, it just makes me want to scream. Generally, when you look like me and someone says something about racism, most people that look like me get real quiet in a big hurry and they just stop talking because they don't want to say anything that can be offensive or say something wrong or say something and they end up losing their job or it causes them some type of problem. So again, if you look like me, you're generally quiet. Me, I don't care. I don't have a job to lose. I really don't care. I don't care what anybody thinks. I will tell you the truth as I see it. I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat, or somewhere in between talking point. If I see it, I will call it as I see it, and you can make up your own mind, as I've said many times before. But imagine we have a country now that instead of seeking justice, we have AGs running for office using racism as their platform. She said publicly that I'm going to get Donald Trump, elect me, and I'm going to take him and his family out. I'm going to get retribution. I'm going to get that guy. She actually, in a profane tirade, really dug into Donald Trump. She told one supporter, essentially, don't worry, I'm going to go to work every day and I'm going to work at suing that SOB every chance I get. And there's some other video going around where she's much more profane, or as I like to say, even insane. It's just a shame to hear even her press conference she just had a few minutes ago. Dude, these people are nuts. So it's the world we live in. We can definitely all learn about it, educate our friends about it, and obviously vote when it's time to vote so we don't have to deal with this anymore. We can hopefully get the right people back in there and take appropriate action. Let's get into our first video today. I got some news articles to look at. I got some court things to look at. We also have a PDF of that ruling that we were just discussing out in New York City. So let's get to it and see how much of this we can plow through.
We do have this decision. We're waiting for the content of it. It's 92 pages long. It's no surprise that Judge Arthur Engoron has found the former President Donald Trump liable in this case. This is a civil case. So this is about money, not about criminality, just to rewind a little bit here, because there are a lot of different cases to keep track on. But in this case, Leticia James said when she was running for Attorney General that she was going to get Trump. And we're going to play some of what she said in a moment here. But the decision is in. It's 92 pages long. James asked for $370 million in damages. She also wants him to be prevented from doing business in New York State. So as we wait to download all of this and get a look at the number, and as soon as we get it, we'll tell you exactly what it is. Obviously, this is something that the former president is watching extremely closely. He has layers of judicial dates, appointments, decisions coming down, all in the middle of the South Carolina primary, which is coming up on February the 24th, and Super Tuesday. So all of this interwoven for former President Trump. I want to bring in Ari Fleischer, former White House press secretary and Fox News contributor, and Shannon Bream, Fox News Sunday anchor and our chief legal correspondent.
I'm going to talk a little lower in between the videos because I don't want to blow anybody's speakers up, because I realize at times there might be a little bit of a difference in the way the sound comes through your speaker. However, I wanted to point out at this point in this video, imagine being Donald Trump and you have to continue to run for president of the United States against a man that's obviously got some serious mental deficiencies. At the same time, you're trying to conduct your campaign. They have successfully, the Democrats and their liberal friends have successfully come up with a plan to where they are able to keep him tied up in court. That is so grossly unfair. You know, at the end of the day, what we're looking at right now is we're looking at a de facto election interference. Call it what you want to call it. That's the way.
Shannon, let me start with you. So no surprise, obviously, that he was found liable because the judge found him liable before this case began, correct?
Correct. And we are now looking at this. Of course, I jutted to the bottom to see what we can find in the conclusion. And there are several big numbers in there. The judge talks about in this finding Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump, Alan Weisselberg, and others involved in this, as you said, had already decided that they had been fraudulent in some way. One of the first things he orders is that several of them together, including Donald Trump and his trust and Trump organization, will be have to pay $168 million and change. The next paragraph goes on to say that there's another ruling for $126 million and change. Another one for $60 million. Now, we'll have to look and see if any of those are overlapping or if we add these up. But these are some of the numbers coming out. Goes on to say that Eric Trump has to pay $4 million in one case, Donald Trump Jr. $4 million in one of these cases, and Alan Weisselberg $1 million. So there's a lot there. We're going to parse through these numbers, but they are big. Incredible. We knew there was a big ask. It looks like they may be in the neighborhood of close to $300 million or more.
Yeah, Shannon, you know, we are seeing this. I believe this is a Reuters report. We're all trying to sort of balance up these numbers here. But according to some of the reporting out there, the number is $354.9 million. And as you say, the damages are spread across a number of the Trump family members who are deeply involved in the business. Don Jr., Eric Trump, as you say, $4 million. Now, perhaps equally importantly, according to the early reporting that we're seeing here, the judge has banned Donald Trump and others from serving as an officer or director of any New York corporation or other legal entity in New York for 3 years, is the period here on this. Now, that wouldn't have a whole lot of impact on President Trump because he is running for president and hopes to be president during that time. But Eric Trump and Don Jr. and Eric, in a large way, are very instrumental in the business here, and it would prevent them from serving as an officer or director of any New York corporation or other legal entity in New York for 2 years. So $355 million here in the judgment from Arthur Engoron against the former president Donald Trump. Ari, what's your reaction to all this?
You know, Martha, I just have such a hard time seeing any of the court cases, including this one, as anything other than a continuation of the resistance that began when Donald Trump was elected president, and instantly protesters took to the streets of Fifth Avenue against Donald Trump. To me, when you look at all these cases, the one thing they keep having in common is they're being brought against the former president in the bluest of blue counties across the United States of America. Because if they were brought in a purple county, let alone a red county, they probably would have no chance of success, whether it was a jury or a judge rendering a verdict. And so I just think this is a continuation of the nastiness that law has turned into.
You know, that's a very good point, too. Have you noticed that all of these cases, every single one of them, are brought in a jurisdiction or a venue that is always a Democratic type of venue. And I know what you might be thinking, well, how is Atlanta or how is Georgia a Democratic venue? It just so happens that Fulton County, which includes the seed of the county, is essentially a minority area. It's a Democratic area. And because it includes the county seat, or the capital seat, I should say, it is under the jurisdiction of Fulton County. And as such, it gives Fani Willis the ability to basically take this bogus Rico case to trial. Same thing in New York City. I mean, let's be honest about it. New York City proper, I believe it's 95% Democratic. I mean, it is, it's just the odds of finding a Republican there are very, very remote. And that's the reason why they bring an action like this inside of New York City. Now, if you go out to the countryside or out to the suburbs, if you will, further out into the country land, if you will, of New York State, that's a different situation. But they always bring these actions where they believe they're most likely to be successful. And again, that's just wrong on so many levels.
To serve the political ends, as Leticia James, as you pointed out, the Attorney General of New York, campaigned on getting Donald Trump. And I remember when she said that. I'm a New Yorker. I remember when she was a candidate and she vowed to do that. And it struck me as an absolute miscarriage of justice then when she made the promise. And now that she's delivered on it, it's an even bigger miscarriage.
This also, the judge says that the Trump organization must install an independent director of compliance, and says its independent monitor shall continue in her role, it says, for at least 3 years. Shannon, you know, of all the cases that have come against the former president, this one, I would say, and the hush money Stormy Daniels case, you know, sort of was problematic in terms of the interpretation of a lot of people who study the law, as you do. Now, in this case, none of the banks came forward. None of these real estate investment companies came forward and said that the Trump organization failed to repay them. They claimed that the Mar-a-Lago estate, for example, was, I believe, worth $18 million, which is preposterous for anybody who's looked for, you know, a cottage in Palm Beach. You couldn't get one of those in that neighborhood. So, you know.
Make sure you pay attention to this part of the video. We have an article we're going to go over in just a second. I have talked about this exact subject many times before, and that is that real estate professionals, especially here in Florida, there's numerous articles online where they talk about this Judge Engoron valuing Mar-a-Lago, if I can say it, at $18 million. That's an outrage. That's just a misunderstanding of how things work. What he based that on is he based it on essentially a tax assessment is what that is. And in Florida, which is similar to a lot of states, basically the county recorder's office or whatever office handles property tax will send you a statement every year on your property tax. I live in Florida. I know exactly how this is done. They send you a piece of paper and it breaks down everything you're charged for on your property tax. See, here in Florida, we do not have a state income tax, which is fantastic. However, we do have a substantial tax as far as our property is concerned. Now, the good thing about taxes here in Florida is once you buy a property, as long as it is your homestead, I don't want to get off on the tangent of what a homestead is, but if you live there and you consider that your primary, what we call legally a domicile, then your taxes cannot go up more than 3% a year because there's a constitutional amendment here in the state of Florida that prevents that from happening. It's called Save Our Homes. So that is nice as far as living here in Florida, especially if you're an older adult. Let's say you're a senior, you're on a fixed income. It can quite be devastating that 1 year property values and everything goes up, and then boom, you're hit with a tax bill that you cannot afford. And here in Florida, we do not want to have seniors that one day they have to move because they can't afford the property tax in a market that went hot all of a sudden. I mean, that would not be right. So here, at least here in Florida, they do everything they can to protect senior citizens. And personally, this is one law that I definitely applaud and I definitely like among many other laws. That's a subject I love to talk about. So if you want to talk about it or if you want videos like that, go ahead and write it in the comments below and I'll see if I can't produce another video. So he valued this Mar-a-Lago estate at $18 million. That is a complete joke. That is what the tax assessor has valued it at for the purposes of taxing the property. That's all it is. If you look at the area on the internet, you go to Zillow or whatever, and you look at Palm Beach, Florida, you cannot get a piece of barren land on the beach for $18 million. It just shows how ignorant, willfully ignorant, I would argue, these people are. And it is nothing short of a travesty of justice that this has happened. I will continue with some more comments here in a minute.
Oh, it's really shocking how political this appears to be in going after him. Let's play those Leticia James comments when she was running for
Here we go.
To be the Attorney General. Watch this.
No one is above the law, including this illegitimate president. I look forward to going into the office of Attorney General every day, suing him, defending your rights, and then going home.
I say one name, Donald Trump. That should motivate you.
Will you sue him for us?
Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the
There we go.
I know my name personally.
Every time I see that, Shannon, it's pretty shocking behavior from someone who, wants to be an attorney general.
Yeah, and in the line she has there about nobody is above the law, his folks will say nobody's below it either. You cannot simply use the law as a cudgel and go after somebody in a way that appears political. This lends credence to the argument that President Trump makes over and over, that it's not just a prosecution, these are persecutions. And his base is going to rally to that every time this happens. We got to remember, too, that as you noted there, and as he continues to note, there weren't, quote, victims here. There weren't people that came forward and demanded justice from the attorney general. So in New York, even though we're referring to this as the Supreme Court, they have unusual language that they use in New York. It's not their final court of appeal. Their court of appeals is actually above their state Supreme Court. So the Trump team feels like on so many different counts, they've got a really strong measure on appeal. No doubt that they're going to take every penny of this to appeal. So what happens in the meantime? A lot of this has been put on hold, taking the business licenses and those kinds of things. So we'll see how they do on appeal, but no doubt that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
There's a problem we need to talk about, and she kind of pointed it out. What happens on appeal? That's kind of the way we are all thinking. Oh, he'll just appeal it. It's no big deal. Well, it depends on the state as to whether or not it's a big deal. And I can assure you that New York State does not have very friendly consumer laws. So let's look at this. He has let's say it's $370 million he owes. He owes $370 million according to this judge. He owes this money, and I want to make sure you understand what he is alleged to have done. He owes this money because when he had his Mar-a-Lago estate appraised, and I think also Trump Tower, he allegedly overvalued the property. It's just that simple. And they value the property because the way that it works in the real estate world and the way it works for our beloved former president here is essentially these people make their money off of debt. So what they do is they go to the bank. Every time the property value increases, the bank will look at what they said the property's worth. The bank always makes their own independent assessment of what the property is worth, and then they will decide if they're going to loan you more money. And the reason why they like dealing with debt, as far as the president and other wealthy individuals, is because when you receive money that is debt, in other words, the bank writes Donald Trump, for example, I'm oversimplifying, but let's say he writes him a $10 million check that is backed up by the value of the Mar-a-Lago property. Well, he can take that $10 million check and literally put it in his pocket. And there's no tax, no income tax. You're like, well, how can that be? Well, it's real simple. It's not income, it's debt. So that's oversimplified. That's the way that this particular market works. And it's just the way it works. And it's something that you have to understand to kind of grasp what he's accused of. And the banks themselves said it's normal that the game is played the way they play it. The president has to say what he can say. Property is very subjective. The old expression used to be your house is worth what you can talk someone else into buying it for. I mean, that's just the way it is. If you've ever sold property, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So whatever you can talk someone into buying it for, that's what the property is worth. It may sell for what you think it's worth. It may not. When the president presents his financials to a bank, he has a letter right on the top that says, "These are my opinions. This is what I think it's worth." The president also claims, rightly so in my estimation, that the Trump name is worth a substantial amount of money. In other words, just being named Trump, having Trump on the building, Trump on the property here in Mar-a-Lago, it is something that increases the value. The brand of Trump makes the property worth more money. Now, the president says he believes his estate is worth, I believe, $1 billion. And there's other real estate professionals that would agree with that. Now, you may not agree with that. The bank will not agree with that, and the judge obviously doesn't agree with that, but it really doesn't matter. The bank in court said that the president and his companies are outstanding clients. They have never been defrauded, they never were late with any payment, and they made literally hundreds of millions of dollars dealing with the president on his properties in this manner. And they also said, one of the bank representatives, I believe it was Deloitte Bank or one of them, said definitively that even if the president overvalued all of his assets by half, in other words, he doubled the actual value of his assets, they would have still considered the president and his companies in their highest premier category, and they would have gratefully, willingly, enthusiastically offered the loans that the president received and his companies received at the exact same terms and interest rates that they had previously. That should be the end of the case. Also, Michael Cohen, the president's former, AKA the fixer, the guy who once swore that he would take a bullet for the president. And of course, now he has been trying to stab the president metaphorically in the back ever since, admitted on the stand that Donald Trump never one time told him to inflate the value of any of the properties. So with all these facts, you're like, well, how can it possibly be that this judge decided to hit the president the way he did? Well, it's real simple. It's political. And now the president knows, we all know, we can all see. It's always been this way, folks. It's not, and let me tell you, it's not just New York. It's not just Democratic areas. This happens everywhere. It just, normally it's not something that's in the limelight like it is right now, because normally it's hidden. Normally, if you're a person on the outside that's not politically connected, you get treated one way, and then people that are your friends, your pals, and you're politically connected to get treated another way. So I just want you to keep that in mind as we go through this here.
Yeah, I mean, Ari, when you evaluate your own properties for the purpose of insurance or the purpose of getting a loan from a bank, it comes basically with language that says, this is our assessment. Then the banks step in, they do their assessment on how much the property is valued. And in none of those cases involving the Trump organization, did any of these parties bring any litigation against the Trump organization for any false representation, correct?
No, that is exactly right. And nobody has ever accused any of these New York bankers or insurance people of being behind the ball. I mean, these guys are pretty sharp at what they do, and they know how to sharpen their pencils. So all of this is why I put this in the political category, not a legal category. It's one of the reasons the norms have broken down in this country, because when the Democrats go to these kind of resorts to get somebody they don't like, we all lose faith in the system. You know, it's the same thing as 2 impeachments that violated the rules of the House. It's all just to get the man they don't want. And the perverse result of it is they're going to get the man they don't want. As a result of all these prosecutions, Donald Trump leapfrogged in the Republican nomination. If they had really wanted to get rid of Trump, they wouldn't have prosecuted him. And then Ron DeSantis actually may have had a chance back in January of 2023. But these indictments led to the rallying of the base because it made people question justice, which has been a 4-year pattern when Donald Trump was president. So it's the most foolish thing the Democrats could do unless they want Donald Trump to return to power.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, you know, ignoring some of this might have produced a different outcome. When you think about 91 indictments against this individual, and Shannon, you know, just looking at other civil cases which have a monetary price tag on them, as I said, this is not a criminal case that he was in here. I looked back O.J. Simpson was found civilly liable in the deaths of two people. His wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend who was at the property at the time, $33 million
It's incredible.
in the deaths of two human beings in one of the most high-profile cases in American history.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, there were clearly victims in that case, which keeps going back to this argument about nobody complained. Everybody got paid back in this case. So regardless of how you feel about the outcome, when the president, former president, and his supporters have this argument that it's political, it certainly looks that way, especially with the clips that you played earlier. Now, something interesting to note, we had out new Fox polling this week. You and I on the road have talked to folks in New Hampshire and Iowa and everywhere in between who've said they would not move away from President Trump if he was indicted or convicted. Now, there is some softening there if he's convicted on a criminal charge. But this new polling we have out of critical states, New Hampshire and Michigan this week, found that more Biden supporters are worried about his mental acuity than Trump supporters are worried about his legal issues. So again, this will rally most of the base to him. It forced all of his GOP rivals to run to his defense every time he was indicted. And as Ari points out, I mean, it cleared the field in a very different way. But voters say for the majority of Trump supporters, it's not going to move them. They're not going to waver in the face of verdicts like this.
No, you're absolutely right, Shannon. There's no indication in any of the polling.
All right, I want to switch to the next subject right here, but I want to briefly recap this because I want you to get an idea of exactly what I'm talking about here. And then we'll go to some comments and read your comments real quick, and then we'll get into the next subject here. So it's got to be fleshed out. They're going to be reading through the papers. We're going to take a look at it here in a second, but they're going to be looking through all 92 pages of Judge Engoron's ruling. If you do the math, at this point, they believe it's approximately $354.9 million. Essentially, the president, his children, excluding Ivanka, she was dropped off the suit. They are not allowed to serve as a director, nor are they allowed to operate any of the companies in the Trump organization that are based in New York State. And here's a kicker. You got to understand this. They are also prevented from obtaining loans from any type of New York bank. And that could be a big problem because even if they have a company that is based in Florida, or let's say they have one of their LLCs or one of their corporations and they change it to Florida, just hypothetically, the problem is a lot of the U.S. banking system is based in Florida. And I would be highly suspect that any bank that is based in New York State, because of the New York Stock Exchange or whatever, there's just a lot of financial power, if you will, in New York State. That could really be a problem, cutting him off from access of his money, which is essentially loans, as I just explained earlier, and how he makes his money. There's just something grossly unfair in our country. And again, this has been going on. I have literally seen this happen to other individuals on a federal level and a state level. The individual is not the individual or individuals are not politically connected. They have a falling out with whomever that is politically connected, and they end up on the wrong side of a stick and they get hammered. It's just that simple. And I can tell you there are two types of justice in our country. Our own beloved president here used to say anybody that would take the Fifth Amendment has to be guilty. And he has since lived to recant that admission because now he understands the wisdom of the Fifth Amendment and being able to exercise don't ever say, oh, I exercise my right against self-incrimination. That sounds terrible. You exercise your Fifth Amendment right, which is a right to remain silent. That's how you put it in, just in quick terms. That's how you would exercise it if you ever had to exercise that right. But there's a reason for that. If you were in the shoes of someone like President Trump and you're being hammered by the state and or federal government or some other agency, you better learn that your rights are very important and you're not going to fix it when you're on the receiving end of a hammer that they're trying to hammer President Trump. It's not even about Donald Trump, folks. It's about you. It's about me. It's about our right to decide who we want to be president of the United States. It's our right to vote that's at risk. This has a lot less to do with Donald Trump and family, and it has to do with you, and it has to do with me, and we have to understand that. That's why we should all have this sense of outrage that this is happening. I really don't like it when the Democrats are on the receiving end of this type of locker up type of stuff. And I definitely don't like it now that the president, Donald Trump, is on the receiving end of this. We have to stop this. If we don't stop it, you're going to have a society of lawfare. You're going to have a society that anytime the party in power decides that they don't like the guy that they're going to be running against, they're going to take him out. Just that simple. They're going to find a way to incarcerate him. Look at President Joe Biden. He has done exactly the same thing in the top secret record situation, being prosecuted, I would argue persecuted, by special counsel Jack Smith. The exact same situation is going on. I would argue Joe Biden's situation is worse. Why? Because in his own words, Joe Biden was giving this classified information to a ghostwriter that was working on a book for profit. So basically, if you look at it in these terms, you have the current president of the United States giving classified information to an individual for profit, for money. I'd call that treason. I don't know what you call that. Forget about mishandling records. And there's one other thing no one's talking about in this situation. President Donald Trump, at the time he had the records in his hand, was allowed to simply say, I'm president of the United States and I hereby declassify this. It's just that simple. He has absolute power, unchecked power, to declassify anything he wants, anytime he wants, for any reason he wants. He doesn't have to explain anything to anybody, and it's not reviewable by a court. He has that absolute power because he is president of the United States at the time he's president of the United States. All of this arguing, all of these court proceedings relating to this Jack Smith case has to do with, did President Trump, when he walked out of the White House, say, I declare these records declassified, or did he not? Because if he didn't, we want to put him in jail for 1,000 years. That's essentially what's going on. He's charged by Jack Smith, I believe it's 2 counts. One count is a felonious obstruction of justice. And then the second count is felony mishandling classified information. It's just that simple. It's just outrageous, isn't it? Absolutely outrageous. And we have to explain it in reality, exactly with what's going on, so that if you hear otherwise, you know the reality. What do you think about that? Is that not outrageous? It just makes my skin crawl. I'll say one more thing before I look at the comments. Instead of trying to understand former President Trump, instead of trying to see why so many people adore him and love him and want him elected as president again, what do? They try to throw him in jail. They try to incarcerate him, take all of his assets away, take his money away, take everything the man has worked his entire life to build and take it away from him. That just shows you their mentality. They would be much better off taking time to find out why he's so popular, why people want him to be the next president of the United States. People are tired in this country of being taken for granted, of being used, of having their rights slowly taken away. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. It's like this right goes, this right goes. Oh, we're going to be paying for everybody's this and everybody's that. We don't want socialism. We don't want to drink that Kool-Aid. If you do, you need to take a trip to Cuba or go to Venezuela, or for that matter, go to Europe and start living the great European dream. I don't want nothing to do with that. I'm sure you don't either. I want a chance to improve myself. I want a chance to better myself. The United States is really the only place on the face of the earth that you can start in one economic class and work your way up to another economic class. It doesn't really exist in any other country, any other place of the world. We really have a great thing going on here, and these idiots are in the process of screwing it up for all of us. They think they know what's best for you. They think they know what you should do and what you shouldn't do. They believe in taking care of you from the day you're born to the day they put you on the ground. It's just 2 completely different ways of looking at the world that we live in. On paper, it sounds good that we all should share in whatever, that we all should do this. Well, you know what? We should this, we should that. And you know what happens? We just have should of all over the place. So what I'm saying is freedom is what we should all desire. There's nothing in life that's equitable. If you were told that, let me be the person to tell you you've been lied to. I'm sorry about that. There's nothing fair in life. It's just the way it is. We can strive for equality, but nothing's fair. There is nothing in life that's fair. All we can do is have a constitution. Everybody's under the same rules. Good luck. You can't right wrongs. You can't make up for the past. We can't set in judgment of everybody that's lived before us. That's stupid. Absolutely stupid. What we have to do is we have to take pride in what we do. We have to find what our values are. We have to stand up for our values, and you have to work, and you have to work hard. That's the only way. There's no one dressed like Superman that's going to come through the door and rescue you. You have to do it yourself. You have to be your own superhero. And I realize I have some viewers that are a little bit younger, and this may come as a shock to you. This is life. Be glad that you are still living. Be glad for the blessings that you do have. And if you don't like something, change it. It's just that simple. I used to tell my kids, hey, if you think you got it bad, I get it. We all have these days. Simply get up, go down the street to the local hospital over here. I can promise you there is a building full of people that would trade places with you that fast. So if you're starting to have a pity party for yourself, you need to pull your head out of you know where. You need to, like the Bible says, count your blessings, count your many blessings one by one. Try it next time you're upset or you feel bad. It really works. It makes a big difference when you realize all the good things that you do have. So back on this subject here, let's take a look. I appreciate everybody joining me today, by the way. All right, let's see. Gary. Hey, I appreciate it, Gary. I enjoy having you with me too. Gladys, thank you from Maryland. Shirley, how does it stand? It's just the fact that it does stand. And what was it Martin Luther King Jr. or somebody that said, someone said it. If not, I'm going to say it. But essentially, bad things happen. I'm paraphrasing. But bad things happen, evil things happen when good people just let it happen. They say nothing. They don't want to get involved. And folks, let me tell you something. We really got things mixed up sometimes. We don't stand up for what's right. We get all bent out of shape over stupid things. I'm just telling you the way it is. There's certain things that are bad, but in the scheme of things, they're not as bad as we make them out to be. But when it comes to our freedoms being taken away slowly over 60 years, you can't even get people to write a letter to their senator, much less anything else. So Shirley, my answer is talk to your friends about it. Make sure you get out and vote. Share these videos with anybody that you feel is indoctrinated. I think that's a fair place to start. Educate yourself. American Nana, New England, where I'm originally from. 7,000. Oh, yeah. For a modest, your property tax. Yeah, estate tax. Is it a state tax or you must be talking about property tax on your home, your estate home, I'm assuming is what you're talking about. Yeah, here in Florida, I have when I bought this house originally, I still had some of my children still living with me, so I need a bigger house. I do have a large house. It's 5 bedrooms, 3.5 bath. And my property tax when I moved in, I think it was like $1,700 or somewhere around there. And I pay now about $2,400. It creeps up every year, but it's always capped at 3%. So whatever it was I started from, I'm not much higher now. If this was not my homestead, or if I sold this property to someone else, the property tax would be substantially higher. I don't know what it would be, but it would be a lot higher than what it is right now. That's for sure. Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's off his rocker. I think he's on point. He's doing what he wants to do. He wrote this 92-page whatever in such a way to carry out the agenda that these people have. So he's not off his rocker. He's trying to take out Donald Trump. It's just another slice. In their mind, they're doing the right thing. In their mind, this man's an evil man. This man's a bad man, and he's got to be stopped. Irony here is you've seen Fani Willis, if you were watching coverage from the other day, she walks into the court basically yelling. She's out of control. I mean, I've been in court before. If I acted like that, I promise you I'd have been in jail. Contempt of court, they just haul you off. She had to be admonished twice by the judge, and the judge was literally bending over trying to help her. And she literally acted like she controlled the courtroom. She was belligerent. She just would not listen to what the judge wanted her to do. Donald Trump's accused of doing exactly the same thing. They hammer him, but yet Fani Willis faces no consequences whatsoever. Just the way it is. Let's see, Benji. See, Trump held accountable in many, many trials to count. Well, you're entitled to your opinion, Benji. I don't think that is my opinion by any stretch, but we're all welcome to our opinions. If you'd like to come on the program one day and have a pleasant discussion about what you think he needs to be held accountable for, we can review that. My information's on the bottom of the screen. And then Nana again, just property. Yeah, okay, property. Thanks for the clarification. I appreciate that. If y'all have any questions, comments, definitely put them in the section below. Let's take a look at Trump's social media feed. I always find Truth Social. I don't know if y'all have an account on there or if you've had opportunity to check that out, but I like it. I think it's actually a pretty good site, and it's always a good place to check on our former president and see exactly what he has. So let me see if I can blow this up a little bit more, and we'll just read through this together, because he has a reaction to exactly what's going on as far as the response to the court decision. Let me zoom in here just a tad. There we go. Let me see if that's too much. No, I think we can do that right there. That looks good. Okay, let's take a quick peek at it. I'll read it to you anyway, so if you can't see it clearly, don't worry about it. I will fill you in. All right, this is Donald Trump responding approximately about an hour ago. The election interference and tyrannical abuse of power by crooked judge and crooked attorney general cannot be tolerated. My case was already won in the appellate division, and more than 80% of the frivolous claims were wiped out. Yet, as I suspected, and in order to hurt me and the Republican Party politically, crooked and corrupt Judge Arthur Engoron ignored his loss at the appellate division and came up with an outrageous $355 million fine against me. Using a statute that has never been applied like this before, the corrupt judge conspired with the crooked attorney general, Leticia James, and punished a liquid and beautiful corporate empire. And then that started in New York and has been successful all around the world. Well, he's going to obviously be very angry. Any day you're looking at losing 300 and some odd million dollars, I would be very angry about that. How in the world is that even remotely justified to have that type of a penalty taken out against you because you were operating your business consistent with normal practices? I have an article we're going to look at in a minute where other real estate agents are talking about exactly what I'm talking about right now. And that is the way the Trump organization, the way Donald Trump carried out business is the normal way they carry out business. So if you're a business in New York State, be forewarned. If you're not a Democrat, you might want to go elsewhere. I mean, I'm dead serious about that. If I had a big old chunk of change, there ain't no way in HELL that I'm going to New York State and investing in squat. No way in the world. That would be too risky. You fall on the wrong side of somebody. You come out against a former cabbie, a guy that likes to take half nudie shots and put them online. No way. No, thank you. I don't want nothing to do with that. Continuing on, page 2, our president says there were no victims. And that's true. This law, this consumer protection law, it's really odd to understand this. They have laws, and they have them in New York. And listen, I believe the appellate courts have upheld these type of laws. It's unbelievable. You don't have to have a victim. There are no victims. No one has come forward and said, Donald Trump's company screwed me. Nobody has said that. That's not the allegation here. Leticia James, the AG, ran on a platform that I'm going to find a way to take them out. And I can assure you folks, we have so many laws nowadays, we don't even know how many laws we have. And if they want to find a way to take you out, take me out, I promise you that can find a way. And listen, I'm just giving my own personal opinion here. It kind of strikes me in a amazing way that a man like Donald Trump, the age he is, how long he's been in business, especially the kind of business he's in, which is essentially real estate and construction. And then you have the mob and stuff like that in New York City, that they have not been able to actually find something on him that is really hardcore. Remember I don't know if you've seen it or not, I did a video 2 or 3 weeks ago that had, who's that mobster that was interviewed about Donald Trump? He turned on the mob and he turned state's evidence, and he's still in hiding even today. He's the one that's credited with putting John Gotti away. I'm drawing a blank for some reason. If you know who I'm talking about, put it down for me in the comments so I can read it. But I got to tell you the guy's name on this. He's got a real cute name. Anyway, I'll look it up later. But he was interviewed. If you go to my video section, you'll see the name of the former, aka former mobster that was there. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on it. But at any rate, he claims he was hired by Steve Wynn. You know, Steve Wynn owns half of the casinos down there, to approach Donald Trump back in the day when Donald Trump was building his first casino in Las Vegas. He wanted Donald Trump to basically go in on some kind of, let's just say it's a criminal deal of some sort. He said Donald Trump would not bite. He said he tried as hard as he could. He wouldn't have nothing to do with it. He was not interested in anything that was corrupt or even had the appearance of any type of corruption. And I'm not a Donald Trump groupie, no matter what you think. If I think Donald Trump does something wrong, I'll tell you he does something wrong. I'm just reporting what the report said and what the guy said in his own words. So that should speak highly for his character. Anyway, there were no victims. Now, one person testified there was any fraud. The actual witnesses established my net worth exceeded that reported in my financial statement. And those statements never included my most valuable asset, the Trump brand. I agree with that. That's the key, is his brand is worth a ton of money. The highly respected expert witness said my financial statements were among the best he's ever seen. I paid over $300 million in taxes to New York City and state, and they want me gone. They are crazy lunatics who are destroying everything in their way. It all starts with the Biden's attack on his political opponent. This is true. This is very well said. He's paid a bunch of money. You know, in New York City, I believe it was Governor Cuomo, they've decided to change their tune on some of the stuff. They started going after the wealthy people real hard and hammering them with even more taxes. And I think they had 4 or 5, 6 of them leave, and it took a big chunk of the money they had coming in. And they have now since revisited the wisdom of hammering these so-called wealthy individuals. Matter of fact, the guy that owns Paychex, you ever heard of the company called Paychex? They do a lot of payroll reporting, similar to ADP. Some of y'all may or may not be familiar. I used to use Paychex all the time personally in my businesses. They just they have a great service. At any rate, he literally moved from New York City. He moved here to Tampa. They have a beautiful office right here in Tampa Bay. Where did I see their office at? I just remember how pretty it was, but they have a huge sprawling complex. He has said in a published report, the first year he moved here, he saved $30 million in personal income tax. Isn't that amazing? The income tax, for example, in Georgia is like 6%. So I'm not sure exactly what the income tax rate, the personal income tax rate is in the state of New York. But if it's 6%, I'm sure it's higher. If you're a man making that type of money, that's a substantial amount of money. I guess simple algebra would tell you if you save 30 million in a year, let's say it's a 10% tax rate, so it'd be 30 million divided by 10%. Somebody help me out with that. Is that his income would have been like 300 million, I think is what that would be. Okay. I hate to do math on the fly here, but you get the idea. He's obviously making a ton of money, and he saved $30 million the first year he moved here. So by the way, I don't work for the Florida Commission or anything like that, the Florida Visitors Commission, but Florida is a great place. I definitely love it here, and I've lived all over the United States. Continuing on with former President Donald Trump's response, the actual bankers who were involved in the loan transactions testified I was a highly sought after well and a client with one of the strongest personal balance sheets. Oh, by the way, the judge, Engoron, said about this so-called expert testifying on behalf of the president, his response was something to the effect of, if you give a guy $1 million, he's going to say anything you want. And what that basically means is that any expert witness he would never listen to. He's basically going to disregard that because they're all paid. Everybody's paid. The judge is paid. The attorneys are paid. The experts paid. Let's get that out of the way. Now let's get down to the facts. He's basically saying the guy that testified to this is committing perjury. Just nuts. It's just a judge. The judge has made a decision, and now he just literally wants to execute. And I do mean execute. Let's see, it says best I've seen. He said it was a well of a client and one of the strongest personal balance sheets they have ever seen. And I was overqualified for the loans. Those banks earned more than $100 million in profits doing business with me and my companies. But to justify his crazy attack on me and my family, their biased, Trump-hating judge ignored all this. They even said Michael Cohen told the truth, although Cohen admitted to lying hundreds of times and lied right in front of the judge during the trial. This shocking and corrupt interference in the free markets of for political gain places every New York business transaction at risk. We must make the corrupt politicians and judges cannot continue to abuse their power of their office and violate the public trust. We have already won, and we will continue the fight on appeal. Amen. I mean, what else can you say? We just have to hope we can straighten everything out when it comes this November, because this is nuts. Let's see what else he says here. The crooked New York, this was 2 hours ago, the crooked New York state judge working for a totally corrupt attorney general who ran on the basis I will get Trump before knowing anything about me or my company has just fined me $355 million based on nothing other than I have built a great company. It's election interference, a witch hunt. More to follow. So you can understand the president's anger. I actually think he's being very kind about it. Here's one of these AI generated pictures. This AI stuff's pretty amazing, what you can do with it nowadays. So you have to be careful what you're looking at, because they can pretty well make anything. If you can imagine it, they can make it with AI nowadays. I play around with that a lot myself. So just FYI, be careful what you see, even what you hear. They have those super fakes nowadays. So you got to be careful. Now, listen, I want to switch. We're going to look at those papers here in a little bit, but I have to switch to some good news. We have to switch the conversation to good news. We can't just talk about this whooping Trump took today. And by the way, it's not over until it's over. I'm not sure how it's going to work on appeal. It's going to be very difficult to put up that type of money, I would think, as far as a bond to appeal. I do know in most states, if you don't put the money up, then they can start execution immediately. I would hope the president could go to a higher court and get a stay. I just don't know if they're allowed to do that under New York law. That would be very difficult to stop. But imagine they have to have someone like a director. Basically, that's almost like a receiver, to be honest with you. They have to put someone in there that they pay for that's going to monitor their day-to-day business activities. I mean, what an insult. What a crazy mess. What a slap, I mean, that is just really, really hard to kind of get your mind around, that somebody would have to suffer that type of punishment. There's going to be a lot of people hurt because of this, not just the Trumps. And I would probably say they got plenty of money no matter what happens. But how about the people that work for them? How about the businesses that are end up destroyed as a result of this? The people down the food chain, so to speak, are going to be hit. And hey, Kurt, I appreciate that. Sammy the Bull was that mobster. That's exactly right. That's exactly Sammy the Bull. Yeah, Sammy the Bull Gavano. I don't know if that's his correct name or not, but Sammy the Bull. You're right. Appreciate you telling me that. I just, folks, as I'm getting older, it's like Joe Biden. the memory, I mean, it still functions, but it doesn't function like it used to. And I realize if I live another 10 or 20 years, I'm going to look back to now and I'm going to be like, wow, I was young then, wasn't I? You know how that is in life, right? Especially y'all that may be a little bit older than me. But anyway, Sammy the Bull, that's exactly right. He's an old man himself right now. He's very old. And his interview was very interesting. If you have not seen that interview, like I said, check under my video section. It was just a few weeks ago. You'll see it. It's pretty obvious. The thumbnail should stick out, I would hope, and you'll be able to see it. So anyway, we're going to switch to some good news. Good news in good old Fulton County, Georgia. I love Fani Willis. I've been talking about her for quite some time now, as y'all know. I had someone say I was obsessed, and I am. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with the truth. I'm obsessed when I see something outrageous like this. I'm obsessed when I see corruption. Corruption is something we should all fear with every fiber of our body, because corruption, at least in part, is the reason why Rome fell. Rome was around, what, 200 and some years before they went off the cliff? I don't want to see that happen to the United States. And if history is a guide, every society eventually succumbs. It's just the way it is. I believe the United States is special. We've been put here by God. We've been built by God. And I firmly believe we have God's special blessing. And I hope that that continues. Now, back on Fani Willis, the reason Rome fell. I'm sorry, it wasn't the reason Rome fell. This corruption has to stop. This trial that was, and you know, I've been talking about my favorite attorney, Miss Ashley Merchant from Cobb County, Georgia. She's got her office right there in Marietta, Georgia. Man, was she tearing it up in court again today. Well, I want to watch a little bit of this. Old Fani, boy, she got her fanny handed to her yesterday. She really has been exposed, her and Nathan Wade, for the liars they are. Now, before we go to the video, I got to explain this to you. If you want to, if you want to know what she wants you to believe, this is what Nathan Wade and Fani Willis want you to believe. They want you to believe this story. Nathan Wade was hired approximately November 1st, 2021 to go after Donald Trump and associates in an unbelievable Rico case. They wanted to snuff out that which is Donald Trump and put him in a cage with the state charges that Donald Trump could not pardon himself from if he was to hypothetically win the election. So this is where this is going, right? So you have to believe that on November 1st, they signed this contract for Nathan Wade to be the special prosecutor. On November 2nd or thereabout, Nathan Wade decides, hey, you know what? I'm going to divorce my wife of 26 years. And she's a good looking woman too. Not that that's, well, I guess that is important, but at any rate, she's a good looking woman. There's a photo of her on one of my other icons on the thumbnail. She's a good looking woman. She's pretty to look at is what I'm trying to say. I don't know anything else about her, but if you believe what she has said in her documents, Nathan Wade essentially left her destitute, left her with no money. And what aggravated her is that Nathan Wade at the time was paid approximately $750,000. And she says Fani was out spending her money, or at least that's the allegation. She's destitute, can't pay her bills, has no way to sustain herself. She doesn't have food. She doesn't have money for whatever. And boom, all of a sudden this stuff hits the fan because of the efforts of the great attorney, Ashley Merchant, that I just love to death. And kaboom, they have a situation to where she turns on the TV and finds out that Nathan Wade has a honey bunny out spending their money. And what are they doing? They were taking trips to the Napa Valley in California. It'd be kind of interesting to see who they visited out there, by the way. I know they went to Belize, and I believe that they have admitted to 2 different trips. But here's what you got to believe. They did not start a sexual relationship until after he was hired to be special prosecutor. It gets better. Not only do you have to believe that, you have to believe that Fani Willis had no financial benefit by proxy, meaning it came through the money she paid Nathan Wade, because according to both of them, Fani Willis always reimbursed Nathan Wade basically half of everything. Well, that'd be easy to prove, right? Because you can just look at the checks or the receipts or the credit cards. Oh, no. You got to remember, Fani Willis, Nathan Wade, allegedly, but definitely Fani Willis, she's supposed to be an expert in financial crimes. You know, she puts people away for financial crimes and white collar crimes, this type of stuff. So she knows what to say and she knows what to do when she's in the situation that she's in. And what do they say? Oh, I always paid Nathan Wade back in cash. What? Yep, you heard it right. Every time she allegedly gave the money, quote unquote money back to Nathan Wade for reimbursing him for tickets, for travel, for trips, for food, for whatever. It was always in cash. Oh, well, Fanny, you got records of the money coming out of Cash App, or you got records of going to the bank and getting money, right? No, I don't have any records. No records at all, ever. No receipts, no records, no nothing. Well, Nathan Wade, you surely, all that cash, you've got, you put it back in the bank, right? To reimburse yourself or reimburse oh, no, I never did that. I just kept the money. This is what they want you to believe. I'm not making this up. This is their sworn testimony under oath. This is what both parties want you and me to believe. And then, of course, the race card has to come up here somewhere, right? It wouldn't be a good story, at least from pertaining to Fani Willis, without the race card being played. You have to have the race card played. So she has her father get on the stand today, and her father says, listen, it's a black thing. Black people have a lot of money that they keep in their house. It's just the way it is. We're black. We keep lots of cash just for an emergency. And folks, it's probably a good idea for all of us to keep a little cash on us, but she wants you to believe that they would keep $14,000, $15,000, I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars at a time. Because as Fanny said on the stand the other day, what if I'm on a date and I don't like the guy? I don't want to be obligated for nothing. So I just pull out a few $100 bills, pay my meal or tab or whatever, and I'm out of there. That's what she said. And of course, it's very clear from the record. The only thing I can tell you is, to put it bluntly, Fani Willis, well, I don't think she'd be the kind of girlfriend I'd want to be with. She definitely is, she's a handful. We'll just let it go at that. But the part I want you to understand is she thinks we're fools. She thinks we're all idiots. She thinks that we're all going to buy this BS that here's the deal. She knows that if she received financial consideration, if she benefited financially, even otherwise, as a result of prosecuting Donald Trump, she knows she's going to be removed off this case. And by extension, Nathan Wade will be removed. And if Fani Willis is removed, Fani Willis is the head of the snake. That means the whole department has to go at the same time. That's just the way it works. So in a nutshell, my opinion, and I think what the evidence clearly shows, and this Michael Roman hiring Ashley Merchant, you see, you're witnessing a superstar attorney in the making. And of course, President Trump's attorneys and other attorneys are down there. And the attorney for Donald Trump, he's a good attorney too. I enjoyed watching him in court today. We'll probably see a little bit of him. I think his name is Sado or something to that effect. He's an older guy, but he's pretty sharp. But here's the bottom line, because I had someone send me an email and says, hey, on social media, I have a lot of people talking a lot of crap about this stuff here. What can I say on social media to explain what Fani Willis has done wrong? And I said, you can say the following, because here's the way I see it, and here's the way that Ashley Merchant and other individuals see it. If the allegations are true, I always have to say allege, all right? I think it's pretty well set up that there is a sexual affair because they've came out and said it in sworn testimony. But here's the scheme. Fani Willis and Nathan Wade decided, we're going to get famous. We're going to get our names in the history books in perpetuity. 1,000 years from now, they're going to read about us and how we stopped Donald Trump from being the next president of the United States. But guess what? It gets better. Not only are we going to stop somebody from being the next president of the United States that we don't like and we don't agree with his policies or his vision for America, we're going to get wealthy. We're going to see money like we've never seen before. We're going to make a ton of money. And the way we're going to do it is I'm going to hire Nathan Wade as the special prosecutor. I'm not going to go through the Fulton County board to get approval for his appointment like she is supposed to do. She hired him anyways. And then, depending on what reports you believe or don't believe, he made anywhere from $728,000 to $1 million. It's like winning the lotto. To date, that is the allegation, that he has been paid that much so far. And Fani makes money, becomes enriched, at least by proxy, because she's going on trips to the Napa Valley. She's taking cruises. I think it's Carnival Cruise and one of the other cruise companies, if my memory serves me right. I believe they had a trip to Belize. Oh, and his mama come along on one of the trips, I believe. It was her. Was it her mom or his mom? I think it was his mom. At any rate, they went on all these trips, and I believe they went to Tennessee a couple times. And of course, she had a few choice words for Tennessee, but they have definitely did some traveling. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. That's all we know so far. So lots of money in the pocket of Nathan Wade and Fani Willis. Of course, Fani Willis gets a little bit of action on the side. And let's be honest about it. When you look at Fani Willis, you really understand that Nathan Wade, as I said the other day, is doing the work that none of us want to do. So maybe he does deserve a little extra something. I don't know. I don't want to, but I digress. I don't want to get too far off on that. But that's essentially what's going on here. And folks, I'm making a little light of the situation. This is not funny. As I've been pointing out, this Rico charge was designed for gangsters. It was designed for organized crime. There's no organized crime here. And no matter what you've been told, the election laws are not as black and white as you think they are. It's not like Donald Trump and other individuals sat down and said, hey, let's go ahead and make some fake electors. Let's do this. If you sit down and actually read the election laws, it's kind of a patchwork all over the country. They're not uniform. Every state has different rules and procedures. That's the truth. You heard it here. If you've been told otherwise, I'm glad I could tell you exactly what the truth is. Do I like everything that happened on January 6th? Absolutely not. Don't like a lot of what happened. But at the same time, what you've been told is a lie. It's not an insurrection, never was. It was a riot that got out of hand. That's what it was. There's video evidence of individuals being pushed off 20, 25 feet staircases because they were walking up on the outside of the staircase. There's all kinds of blame to go around. Nancy Pelosi deserves a lot of the blame because she refused to accept 10,000 soldiers that were offered to secure the grounds. The funny thing is, President Donald Trump was not technically there on January 6th. He was at that area where he gives the speech, but they always leave out the part, they always talk about, he said fight. Well, every politician says fight. What they did leave out was the part where he said, I think 2 or 3 times, but definitely near the end, he said something to the effect of, and I don't want to be called out for missing a word, but he said to peacefully and patriotically march and let your voice be heard. They always leave that out in the legacy media. Have you ever noticed that? But that's the truth. That's exactly what they did. They want you to believe a story that is a lie. And I don't want to get started on that cop that killed that patriot, that female, I forgot her name, I'm sorry about that, that crawled through a broken window and he just shot her dead. She was no threat to him. He shot her one time and unfortunately she's a former Marine or something like that and she died. This is the same idiot, this cop is the same idiot that left his gun in a bathroom there on the Capitol grounds years ago. Do you remember that story in the news? If not, you can Google it and you could see his name and see his record. I hope at some point he's brought up on charges because that's exactly what he deserves to have done, because there was no reason to pull a gun on somebody because they're a trespasser that's crawling through a broken window. Should she have been there crawling through a broken window? No. But there's a lot of blame to go around. And the truth is both sides are spinning it. That is the reality. But at the same time, there are a ton of videotapes. You can watch them yourself and make up your own decision on that. So, all right, let's take a look at this right here. Let me check out your comments one more time here. See if I missed anything extremely important here. I appreciate, let's see, the judge office rocker. Yeah, we talked about Trump held accountable. Thank you for that. All right. Yeah, property tax, multitask. They are so corrupt. Yeah, don't believe the left, right? They are so, this is the entire U.S. government. The left want to change America, and this goes against most of what the people we want. Yeah, I think so. I do believe in the quiet majority. I will tell you that. And yeah, people are definitely treated differently depending on their beliefs. Thanks, Kurt, for the Sammy the Bull, man. I was really shaking my head there trying to figure it out. Oh, and my buddy, the Lalo show, what's up? I'll eventually learn how to say your name properly there, or your handle there. Fast Cash Fanny. Yeah, someone's got a funny video about that too. I saw that the other day. That was earlier today. That was pretty cute. There's all, with her name being Fanny, and of course she wants it pronounced Fani or something like that. Hey, I'll call her what I want to call her. I read Fanny. I don't know what you read. That's what I read. But Fanny, she loves that cash, and she's got it all laying around. And of course, you knew the race card had to come in there, right? You always have to play the race card when you're a minority that gets caught doing something you shouldn't be caught, or you get called out for blaspheming at a church. You need to stand up and be accountable for your own behavior. Whatever your behavior is, it is what it is. Yeah, his mom. Oh, it was his mom. That's right. Yeah, okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, Ashley Bad. That's the Patriot. Yeah. Yeah. God rest her soul. She, from what I've read and seen about her, she seemed like a good woman. Unfortunately for her, she's at the wrong place at the wrong time. And may God bless her family. And then Don't Believe left. He received a promotion after. Yeah, he did. Can you believe that? He sure did. I forgot about that. They actually promoted him. Well, let's just hope one day the record is straight, the facts are straightened out, and if there's justice that needs to be dealt, then hopefully it's dealt with accordingly. It's really a shame. All right, back on the good news that I have for us for today is what's going on right now in the case in Georgia, in the Fulton County case. The trial, it's been entertaining watching it. And by the way, if I'm looking away, I'm just trying to pull up what I want to show you here. It's been very entertaining watching these lawyers in court. I'm telling you, this Ashley Merchant who represents Michael Roman, she's a great attorney. And as I've been telling y'all, this was a guy that was not ever indicted by the grand jury. He was not indicted by the grand jury, but Fani Willis decided to run his butt over anyways. And I will tell you this: had it not been for his attorney Ashley Merchant, none of this would have ever came to light. Can you imagine that? She has to be thinking, "Man, I really made a mistake going after this guy," but it is what it is. So anyway, let's take a peek at this. I want to go through a little bit of this with you on this trial, and let's talk about it. If you have any comments again, or you want to say something concerning it, just put it in the comments below and we'll take a peek at it together. Here we go. This is the beginning. I believe her father is going to take the stand in this one, if I remember right. Let's see who's coming in. I don't know who that was. I saw him coming in earlier. I'm still not quite sure who that guy was. They brought the camera on him real big there for a second, but I believe the father of Fani Willis comes in. This is kind of entertaining because he is an attorney himself, and that one woman on the right there, she almost took her finger and put it where she shouldn't have put it, but that was an interesting close-up. At any rate, her father's going to come in, and her father is going to take the stand, and I believe the funny thing here is near the end, I think the judge is going to effectively disqualify or strike his testimony because she was talking, or he was made aware of what's going on. Actually, first, we have Governor Roy Barnes. He's the former governor of Georgia. He was actually approached to be the first special counsel, and we'll get to her father here in a second. But this guy, Roy Barnes, he was governor. I said Florida. I meant to say Georgia. He was governor state of Georgia, and he was approached to be special prosecutor.
Eugene Barnes.
We're going to listen in, and I'm going to got a couple comments on it.
Eugene Barnes, B-A-R-N.
He's a good old Southern boy. Can you tell that?
Good morning, Mr.
Morning.
Barnes. Can you tell the court a little bit about your background as it relates to your service in public service?
I was first elected to the state senate in 1974 from Cobb County, and I served 16 years there. And then in 1990, I ran for governor and was defeated. And 2 years later, I went back to the House of Representatives. I was elected to the House of Representatives and served 6 years until I was elected governor in 1998, and I served in that position until January of 2003.
And after serving in the position of governor, can you tell the court a little bit about what you transitioned into after your public service?
I did exactly what I was doing before I was elected. I went back to practicing law in Marietta, Georgia, with my daughter, who's now judge of the state court, and my son-in-law. And now we have, I think, 6 or 7 lawyers. Charlie Bailey back there was one of them at one time.
Okay. And Governor Barnes, would you consider yourself to be a trial lawyer?
Yes. That's,
Okay.
We don't write contracts or we don't write wills. All we do is try cases.
And I want to direct your attention back to 2021, where you were approached by the district attorney of Fulton County, Fani Willis, about being a special prosecutor.
I was. I don't recall the exact date, but I know it was sometime in 2021. And she asked me to come down, and I met with her and Nathan Wade, and there were several other in the meeting. She asked me, said they were beginning this investigation, and she asked me if I'd be interested in being special prosecutor, to which I replied that I had mouths to feed at a law office, and that I would not do that. And also, I just had a bad, well, I won't say bad because it happens from time to time, but I just had the FBI to report a fella, a militia trainer, to me that said they were concerned that he was making threats against me. And because I thought it was because of the flag, but I asked him and he said, no, it was because I was too close to the Jews, quote unquote. And I told DA Willis I'd lived with bodyguards for 4 years and I didn't like it. And I wasn't going to live with bodyguards for the rest of my life.
All right, I'm going to pop around to her father. There's nothing really
Understood.
extremely great
All right,
on his
Mr.
testimony.
Ward, I think we're going to need
So,
continual updates from you.
We're going to go ahead and forward
Also,
on
some kind of
to
expectation of what this afternoon is going to look like. I
to
was
her
never
father,
informed of
which
the
will
medical
show up here in
appointment.
just one second.
The notice in this hearing indicated it would last.
Her
at least
father
2
is
days.
rather a colorful
So,
individual.
Right now, I think he's in violation of his subpoena.
They're talking about violation of subpoena. I'll show you his testimony in a second. This has to do with the ex-law partner of Nathan Wade. It's kind of interesting on his testimony too. And basically what was going on with him is he was just late. And of course, you can't be late when you're under subpoena. Here is the father of Fani Willis. Let's listen to this for a minute.
Florida, California.
All over.
Yes.
And do you, sir, can you tell the court, do you have any children?
I have one daughter, Fani Willis.
Okay. And I want to direct your attention back to 2019, okay?
Yes.
Back in 2019, can you tell the court, did you move here to Atlanta?
I was living in Johannesburg, South Africa. And unfortunately, for some reasons, I could not get an extended visa. When I retired from the practice of law in 2018, I moved to South Africa. And I had to leave South Africa, and I did then come to Atlanta.
Okay, and do you, sir, remember about the time period in 2019 when you moved in with your daughter here in Atlanta?
It would have been the spring or summer of 2019.
And after you moved here, did you get a driver's license to kind of confirm your residency within Atlanta?
Well, my driver's license for the District of Columbia was going to expire on my birthday, which is in October. And yes, I did get a license here in the state of.
They're basically trying to pin him down because they want to see if Willis is telling the truth about where she has been residing and whether he would know whether or not she had a boyfriend, especially a boyfriend named Nathan Wade. And near the end of his testimony is real hilarious because he comes out and admits directly that he's been made aware of everything that's going on in this particular case. And that's a violation of literally the rules. They call it the rule. He should have been warned ahead of time, and he failed to do that. So all of this testimony was, in effect, pretty well stricken. But let's bounce here for just a second. I want you to hear this for a second here.
You know, last night for 5 hours, all they talked about was this case.
So you were aware of what the testimony your
Boom.
daughter gave yesterday was?
Yeah.
Ouch.
Unless you don't cut the radio on, unless you don't cut the television on, unless you don't read the AJC or any other, the New York Times or whatever, which I do every day, yeah, of course.
So is it fair to say nobody instructed you that you were under the rule of sequestration?
Right. And I'm not under subpoena either.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Goodbye, sir.
All right, anything else?
That testimony's
Seeing and hearing
toast.
none, thank you, Mr. Floyd.
Thank you very much.
Mr.
John.
Floyd, you
It's a
just wasted their
pleasure
time.
to appear in front of Your Honor.
Take care.
Thank you.
They're going to talk about it
All right,
briefly here.
Ms. Cross, let me check in. Was the state planning to call additional witnesses?
That is
At this
terrible.
time, Your Honor, we're again trying to accommodate if there's a
Sure.
lapse in schedule.
He was a colorful witness. He was funny in a way, animated
Okay,
like his
so
daughter a
even
little
if
bit.
Mr. Bradley testifies to some extent, it's still the potential that the state has no further witnesses.
They're going
I
to
anticipate at least one more
they're
will
going to
be
strike
available
his
to
testimony here in
testify,
just one second.
But that would be it.
Okay, so there are potentially more state's witnesses. All right.
Judge, before we move on, I move to strike the last witness.
All right, so I think the rule is invoked and the instruction was for the parties to tell all witnesses subpoenaed or expected to appear about the rule. I don't think the remedy is necessarily striking. I think it can go also to this credibility as well. So to that extent, unless Ms. Cross, you want something else to be heard on that, point is made.
All right, so that is code. Just so you know how it works in the court, you probably can infer this yourself, but that is essentially code for he may not technically strike his testimony. Remember, this is not a jury that's hearing this case. This is being heard by a judge. As far as this part of the case, there's not a jury trial. This particular motion is only being heard by the judge. So the judge can say, I rule this, I rule that. At the end of the day, he hears and knows everything that's going on, and he understands inference. So basically, you saw attorney Ashley Merchant say, Judge, please strike this from the record, his entire testimony. The lawyers, it is true, he was not under subpoena, and he doesn't technically have to follow the rule, as they call it, because of the subpoena. However, we're playing semantics because his own lawyers, or I should say the lawyers for Fani Willis for the state, were supposed to tell him and make sure that he understands you can't be reading about it, you can't be talking about it, you can't be watching the news, you can't be finding out what other people have testified to. That would not be fair. And that's the reason why his testimony ended up lining up, of course, with what his daughter said. And at the same time, it's his daughter. So to some degree, with it being your daughter, that a father, a mother, a relative is going to be that much more inclined. I don't want to say to lie, but you know what I'm saying. If it's your own kids, if it's your own parents, there's that line that's really hard not to cross. Now, don't get me wrong. If you lie, it doesn't matter. It's still perjury. And that's what makes this all the more interesting with Fani Willis and Nathan Wade. Clearly, they are committing perjury. Now, whether or not the judge is going to buy that, that's another story. We'll have to see how this plays out at the very end. But as far as I'm concerned, as far as public opinion is concerned, it's very clear that they have perjured themselves. How can it not be perjury? There was testimony earlier by Nathan Wade from his divorce that is still technically going on. he had what's called interrogatories, which are basically just sentences saying, hey, tell me this, tell me that. Well, for example, one of the questions was, and I'm paraphrasing again, have you been with another partner? Have you basically cohabitated with another woman? This type of questions. And he said, no, no, no. Well, now that he's been caught in this, I don't want to say he's been caught in the fanny, but you know what I'm saying, in this fanny situation, he has since went back and amended his answers. And I'm not even sure that he can do that this long after giving those answers. I know generally within a week or two, you can go back and review it and amend it. But at any rate, he went back, he amended his answer. Now his answers are basically, I plead the Fifth Amendment. That's what he did. He doesn't want to talk about it, and he's going to hide behind the Fifth Amendment shield. But that's perjury. And I think he and she has exposure for that at a minimum. There is a lot of criminal liability both of them are facing at this point, and I would not want to trade places with either one of them as far as that goes. But the takeaway as far as the father, in case you're wondering, is he's in trouble, or I should say Fanny's in trouble, because all of that testimony in effect was stricken, is not going to be allowed to be heard. So what I want to do now is I want to pull up our next video. This here, you have to see this witness, okay? Because this witness is the ex-law partner of Nathan Wade. And basically what you're going to be seeing here is there's a battle between him giving a direct answer as to whether or not he has personally seen Nathan Wade and Fani Willis together as a couple romantically, just so I'm clear, on or before November 1st, 2021. Because if he has, that would be another problem with perjury for both of them, because they're telling the court, we have not been together sexually as a couple. I don't want to keep saying that word, so just understand, when I say relationship, we're talking adult relationship, all right? So now you understand that they were not having an adult relationship before that November 1st line, because what they're telling the court is, hey, listen, we had a relationship, we broke it off, I guess, depending on who you ask, recently or summer of last year. But at any rate, the main thing is we were not together before November 1st, 2021. And there's been a lot of discussion about that. And as a matter of fact, at one point, Nathan Wade was trying to say, hey, I was being treated for cancer back, I think it was 2020, and I had to isolate at the same time because of COVID. So he was kind of playing the sympathy card, in my opinion, but the court was having none of it, or at least the defense attorneys were having none of it, because they successfully, in my mind, pointed out, hey, Mr. Wade, weren't you at such and such car dealership? That's not exactly a sterile place, is it? Didn't you go on this trip? Didn't you go here? Didn't you go to this restaurant? I mean, it just made him look like an idiot. I mean, that's my take on it. So this next witness, he knows that Nathan Wade and Fani Willis have been a couple for years, just like the original witness, the ex-roommate, the ex-college friend of Fani Willis. She testified that Nathan Wade and Fani Willis were romantically together since 2019. Now, the witness has a little bit of a problem, because clearly she has an axe to grind, and that can be problematic. Obviously, they use that to impeach her. She was also fired from Fani Willis's DA's office a few years back. So there, when you have an employee with an axe to grind, it's always going to impede their credibility. But if they can get somebody else to say, hey, I saw Fani Willis and Nathan Wade together romantically prior to November 1st, 2021, man, that's going to go a long way, because that's two people impeaching the credibility of Nathan Wade and Fani Willis. So we'll have to see how this all plays out. But the complicating factor with his ex-law partner, I mean, this really gets in the weeds, folks. They're really trying as hard as they can not to get an answer from this guy. So what they're alleging is that Nathan Wade hired his ex-law partner, the gentleman you're about to see. I believe his name is, or did write his name down. He was hired allegedly by Nathan Wade to represent him in his divorce from his soon-to-be ex-wife, Jocelyn Wade. And this guy's name is Terrence Bradley. All right. So he was the ex-partner in the law firm in which Nathan Wade was part of. Additionally, allegedly, I don't believe this, but I'm just telling you, this is what the story is. He was the divorce attorney hired by Nathan Wade to represent him in his divorce. Now, the reason why this is important is there's something called the attorney-client privilege. And if you invoke the attorney-client privilege, and the privilege is the client's, not the attorney. So Nathan Wade has not released his ex-attorney from that privilege. Now, there are exceptions to the privilege, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but you'll see them argue about it here in a minute. The bottom line is this. This guy knows that Fani Willis and Nathan Wade were a couple prior to the November 1st, 2021 deadline. The only thing is, can they get it out of him legally? Short of having to take a club and beat him in the head. You know, they want to legally find a way to get that information out of him. And let's just kind of skim through this because it is interesting. And let's see what you think about it. Let's see what he's able to do. Remember, he'll introduce himself here in a minute. But he is a practicing attorney, so he knows how this game, if you will, is played. It's unfortunate that it is a game, but it is what it is. And I'll try to start referring him to his name Bradley, Terrence Bradley, so we don't have to keep calling him the ex-law partner. And let's see. He's about to take the stage here. Let me see if I can speed this up. It wasn't that button. We'll try this one. The settings. Here we go. I like this. This is a good feature they added to YouTube. I don't know how long ago it was, but it hadn't been that long. I like it because you can. Sometimes the sliding thing doesn't work when you want to just go ahead a little bit. So it's nice to have this double. Oh yeah, it goes all the way up to 2 times. So at any rate, you're going to find him to be a very combative witness. He is definitely not going to be volunteering any information. You can tell he's still friends with Nathan Wade, and he does not want to turn on him. It also comes out in the testimony that they did have a falling out. That was the reason he left the practice. Here he is here. That's the reason he left the practice. And they get into the details a little bit, but he claims privilege on that. One last thing, when you hear when you hear in camera, that means going into the judge's chambers privately. So let's listen to.
Why does that need to be in camera?
Doesn't necessarily. Well, there's statements that could be made that could be prejudicial depending on whether they were covered or not, whether he's been breaking it.
So at the time a question is asked that you think implicates some of those statements, object, and we'll handle it.
Thank you, Judge.
On behalf of Mr. Bradley, and I apologize, this is not our proceeding, but it might be helpful to have a brief sidebar as opposed to something in chambers, at least so that we could let the court know our position rather than having to restate it repeatedly.
And Judge, I've carefully crafted my questions to avoid any privileged information. But if they think that I'm invading that, then I welcome an objection and I'm happy to address it.
Let's see how it goes. And again, Mr. Bradley, I'll ask if you can just give a pause in between each question to allow counsel the opportunity to object before answering.
Thank you, Judge. Was the witness sworn or do I need to swear the witness?
I believe he was.
Great, thank you. I'm sorry. Good morning, Mr. Bradley. How are you?
Good morning.
Not happy to be here, I'm assuming.
I am not.
I understand. Thank you for being here.
Wasn't by choice.
Right. You were subpoenaed to come and testify in this case.
I was.
But you and I have spoken previously about relevant facts surrounding Mr. Wade and Ms. Willis's relationship.
No, we have not.
We have not. We've not texted about those facts.
Through a third party, you were given some information. You and I shared text.
He's about to be caught in a lie because she has the text messages.
More so about if I was okay with what was going on, that I would not be
whether or not I was going to be subpoenaed or not, and that
That's what you call dancing around the question right there. That's
in
what
fact,
that is.
I would not have been sitting in this position as being called as a witness. So that's what my text chain show. So no.
That we've never talked about Willis and Wade having a relationship.
Not directly you and I, no. We talked about my health.
Okay.
We talked about, as I stated before, other things, but not this, no.
Okay. Did you text me about Wade and Willis taking many trips together?
I object, well,
Mr. Brown,
so-
there's been an objection.
One, I'm going to object as it relates to attorney-client privilege. Two, I'm going to object because I've seen the text message that she's attempting to impeach the witness with. And two, he's made all of his representations is that zero.
All right, so they're talking a little bit about whether or not there's a privilege that can be.
Judge, it's not hearsay. We've had these conversations. If I need to take the stand, I will. If I need to put my phone into evidence, I will.
Yeah, she's going to do that.
So the first objection was to privilege on behalf of the state.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not respond to that.
Sure.
Thank you, Judge. Privilege is only communications that are made in furtherance of legal advice. There's been no showing that whether or not they took a trip to California or took a trip or that Mr. Bradley and I talked about.
If the fact that I speeded up a little bit, if that bothers you, put it in the comments so I know. But occasionally I like to speed it up just to get them to talk a little faster so we don't waste time. We got a lot to cover.
That either in person or by text, that's privilege. I'm not asking for any communications that Mr. Wade might have made to Mr. Bradley in furtherance of any legal advice.
All right, and Mr. Abadi, I believe is the one asserting privilege. It would be your burden to show the necessary foundation there. Is that something you want to voir dire the witness on or take up here on this specific question?
Well, no, I'd also object to foundation grounds. She's not provided any foundation that he would have any knowledge of what she's requesting the answer. His answers were he had no knowledge.
All right, they're going to get the phone out. They're going to start beating each other over the head. Everybody's got an attorney. Everybody's got representation. Remember, there's like 20 defendants that is being prosecuted. I'd say persecuted along with Donald Trump. So they are going to have to really be careful because, again, he is asserting a privilege as a lawyer for Nathan Wade, and Nathan Wade has not and will not waive that privilege. So she's pulling out her phone here to show that she has been talking with him about this case. If I remember correctly, there's a text on the phone where he admits to attorney Ashley Merchant that, hey, yes, it is the case that I saw my ex-partner, Nathan Wade, romantically with Fani Willis. The question is that going to come out or is that not going to come out? So let's see how that works out.
Probably 1998.
Okay. And did you all have a law firm together?
We did.
When did that firm start?
Probably, I think it was 2010. We started exclusively working together as a firm, operating as a firm.
Okay. And were you all actually incorporated as a firm?
Not initially, no. He had, when I passed the bar and I hung a shingle in 2007, I think he had been practicing a few years prior to that. He had his own firm. We had two separate firms.
Okay. At some point, did you all incorporate though together?
We did.
Okay. Do you remember about when that was?
I do not at this particular moment, no, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Okay. Do you remember if it was administratively dissolved?
I've been made aware that it's been administratively dissolved. Yes, I left the firm around 2 years ago.
When did you leave the firm?
August of 2022, I think it was.
August of 2022. Okay.
It was either August or September of 2022.
Okay. August, September. Let me make a note. So in October 2019, were you all incorporated as a firm?
I think we were, maybe.
Okay.
Yes.
And when Mr. Wade filed for divorce November 1st or 2nd, 2021, were you all incorporated as a firm?
We should have been. I'm thinking that we were. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When did Mr. Wade come to you to file the divorce action in Cobb County?
That's privileged information.
The timing and the beginning of the privilege, I don't believe that is overruled.
So the timing was around 2018.
Okay.
And it was probably December 2018. I remember it specifically because I was building a house, and I noticed that he wasn't wearing his ring. I asked him about it. I had invited him to the house because I was having not a housewarming, but people over. He wasn't wearing his ring. I inquired about it. From there, we discussed what would happen. And we discussed the divorce and what would happen.
What would happen with the divorce?
What would happen over me representing him for the divorce, and when he would want to do it. Yes.
When did he retain you?
Well, my memory would be 2018 when he consulted with me about the divorce and told me what he would like to see done and when he wanted to do it.
Do you know when Fani Willis and Nathan Wade met?
Specific dates, no. I know it was sometime at a conference.
Municipal court conference?
Correct.
And October 2019, if it's been represented in the state's pleadings before, that's when they met. Does that sound familiar?
If that's what they're saying, then absolutely. I know it was at a conference in 2000. I mean, it was at a conference. If you say it's 2019, I'll take you at your word.
Okay. So it was what you're sure of, though, is it was at a municipal court judges conference
Yes.
when they were both municipal court judges.
Yes.
So it's fair to say, since she became district attorney, she was no longer a municipal court judge. So it had to have been before that.
That they met?
Yes.
Yes.
And he was teaching a class at that seminar, as far as you know?
I'm going to object this to leading at this point. That's my direct.
Was he teaching a class at this seminar?
To my knowledge, he was.
And was Ms. Willis, to your knowledge, attending this seminar?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. There's no personal knowledge. He wasn't present at the municipal court training.
But they put it in their pleadings. Like, we are going to be here all day.
We are going to be here all day.
All right. If you can establish that he would have some personal knowledge, then that's a fair question. So just need to preface it with that, and that's fine.
Thank you. Are you aware of when their romantic relationship began?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. That relates to privilege. She says that he began representing Mr. Wade in 2018. He met Ms. Willis in 2019. That's clearly within the bounds of attorney-client privilege.
There's understood, Mr. Body. So I think Ms. Merchant, you need to qualify that question.
Thank you. I'm not asking you to tell me what Nathan Wade told you in furtherance of legal advice. Okay, so I want to be very clear. If he told you something, asking you legal advice, I'm not asking you about that. I'm asking about what you observed, what you saw, and what you knew outside of what he told you when he was specifically seeking legal advice. Okay.
This is too far afield. I apologize. I object again on behalf of Mr. Bradley. He's asserting that there is an attorney-client privilege associated with this case under Rule 1.6 for him to draw any inference, make any statements, or any other proffer of information.
I personally love Attorney Merchant and the way she acts. She is just really good at her job. And I really can't say enough good things about her. She's really, really point on. So I'm going to speed through some of this because I want to highlight a few things. And then there's been a statement from President Trump just issued. I want to get to that in a second.
The liabilities associated with that relationship between attorney and client that come within your purview and that lead you to further action, lead you to further investigation, further questions, develop your strategy. We can't talk about Mr. Wade on any level. It would be inappropriate. The divorce was filed sometime thereafter. During that entire interlude, any of these issues could in fact have formed the basis for their relationship.
No.
Here's our
So
buddy
you only
Nathan
traveled with her in
Wade
2022
being
and
re-crossed-examined.
2022 and 2023 is what I recall.
That's what you recall?
Yes.
Okay. So you just don't remember if you traveled with her in 2021?
2022 and 2023 is what I recall.
Is what you recall. My question is, did you travel with her in 2021?
Not recalling any travel in 2021.
So it's
Y'all may know this from being obvious, but one of the things that attorneys will do and that someone that is a good defendant, if they don't want to lie, you can always say, hey, I don't recall something. And the idea with that is that's different than saying no. If you say I'm not recalling something, you can always say if you're faced with perjury that, hey, I just didn't recall, but I recall now. I mean, how can you prove someone doesn't remember something? You know, that's the idea.
in that affidavit, you swore under oath, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And in that affidavit, you swore that Well, first of all, do you recognize the affidavit?
I do.
Okay. Did you sign the affidavit under oath?
I did.
And you gave this affidavit specifically to refute the allegations that I had raised.
This is what I was talking about earlier when we first started. He was caught in a lie, and I would call it perjury, and that's exactly what she's doing, is nailing him down.
Yes, ma'am.
Nobody forced you to sign this?
No, ma'am.
You chose to sign it?
I did.
And you signed it on purpose to admit into court to refute allegations?
I did.
You signed it specifically to prove that you were not in a relationship with Willis prior to November 2021, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you were a lawyer when you signed it?
I was.
And you're still a lawyer today, correct?
I am.
When were you barred?
1999.
Okay. And you believe that your relationship with Miss Willis is subject to attorney-client privilege, correct?
I'm going to object to that, Your Honor. I don't think that's factually correct. I don't think that's a relevant question, and I don't think it's appropriate to question this witness about the scope of his attorney-client privilege. He's got an attorney who can speak for him for that, but questioning the witness I think is appropriate.
All right, so a lot to unpack there. The question is simply that does he believe there's a relationship that exists in terms of attorney-client privilege between him and Ms. Willis? Was that
Yes,
assertion?
it was. I asked if he believed his relationship with Ms. Willis is subject to attorney-client privilege.
Okay, I don't see why yes or no would be barred.
Maybe I'm not understanding the question. If the question is, does Mr. Wade and District Attorney Willis have an attorney-client relationship?
It is not.
There's no foundation for that. If the question to the witness is, does his relationship with District Attorney Willis impact his attorney-client relationship with his divorce attorneys? That I don't think is an appropriate question for that witness. First, I believe is a proper phrasing. The second, I think.
I'll set up some time to where we can get right into that. I want to show you this thing coming right from the former President Donald Trump. And I want to get right to it right now and let you hear this yourself. He posted it on Truth Social. First clip he's got here has to do, of course, with Leticia James. Here we go.
The President of the United States has complained that I'm engaging in some sort of political witch hunt, that I've got some personal vendetta against him, that I campaigned against him. That is not true.
This illegitimate president who sits in the White House. That president, because he's not my president, he's an illegitimate president. His days are numbered. His days are numbered. We've got to get ready to mobilize. And we've got to get ready to agitate and irritate until victory is won, but more importantly, until Trump is defeated. We will all rise up and resist this man. And ultimately, we'll bring him down. This illegitimate president, I'm going to give you the same level of respect that you gave to President Obama. And that is absolutely no respect at all. Donald Trump has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. Donald Trump has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. And the days of Donald Trump are numbered. Lock him up. Lock him up. Lock him up. Lock him up. Lock him up.
That is not true.
Okay, so you see what I was talking about. There's some other videos out there that make this look tame. They're filled with profanities. But here is the statement from the president. I think I can make this full screen, or can I? But at any rate, he just released a statement. If I can get to it, here we go.
The amount, but this is a very dishonest man. The amount, but this is a very dishonest man. This is a man that's been overturned already on this case 4 times. But a crooked New York State judge just ruled that I have to pay a fine of $355 million for having built a perfect company. Great cash, great buildings, great everything. It affects New York. It's mostly talking about New York, where we have a totally corrupt attorney general. She campaigned on the fact that I will get Trump, I will get Trump. Everybody's seen it, Letitia James. They've all seen it. Well, we'll be appealing, but more important than that, this is Russia, this is China, this is the same game. All comes out of the DOJ, it all comes out of Biden. It's a witch hunt against his political opponent, the likes of which our country has never seen before. You see it in third world countries, banana republics, but you don't see it here. So I just want to say this. You build a great company. There was no fraud. The banks all got their money, 100%. They love Trump. They testified that Trump is great customer, one of our best customers. They testified beautifully. And the judge knows that. He's just a corrupt person. And we knew that from the beginning. We knew it right from the beginning because he wouldn't give it to the commercial division. This judge thought Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million, and it's worth anywhere from 50 to 100 times that amount. So we realized that. He ruled against me before he even got the case. He ruled against me, said I was guilty. He didn't know what I was guilty of before he even got the case. And Leticia James, that's another case altogether. She's a horribly corrupt attorney general, and it's all having to do with election interference. There were no victims because the banks made a lot of money. They made $100 million. And by the way, I paid approximately $300 million in taxes as the migrants come in and they take over New York. I paid over this period of years over $300 million in taxes, and they want me out. Oh, let's see if we can get them out. These are radical left Democrats. They're lunatics, and it's election interfering. So I just want to thank you for being here. We'll appeal. We'll be successful, I think, because frankly, if we're not successful, New York State is gone. People are moving out of New York State. And because of this, they're going to move out at a much faster rate. They used a statute. It's a consumer fraud statute that's never been used for a thing like this before. They used it on me because I'm running for president. I'm beating Biden by a lot. We're beating not only the Republicans, we're beating Biden by a lot. The poll came out today. We're up 20 points on Biden. If I weren't running, none of this stuff would have ever happened. None of these lawsuits would have ever happened. Nothing would. I would have had a nice life. But I enjoy this life for a different reason. We're going to make America great again. These are corrupt people. These are people that shouldn't be allowed to do the things they do. And they're using this as weaponization against a political opponent who's up a lot in the polls and always will be, because I'm competing with a man who can't put two sentences together, who doesn't know what he's doing. And we're heading into a third world war because of this guy. We have to win this election. They're doing everything possible to step in our way, but we're not going to stand for it. So thank you very much. We will get back to work. It's a ridiculous award. Listen, a fine of $355 million for doing a perfect job, for having paid back a loan with no defaults, with no problems. The banks were totally, at the trial, they testified. We had an expert witness from the Stern School at NYU that made a statement. And I was very honored by his statement. He's one of the most respected people anywhere in the country for doing this kind of thing, expert witness. He said, this is one of the greatest financial statements I have ever witnessed before. And he talked about even the detail. So my numbers actually were extremely conservative. They saw this. So what the judge did is he brought down certain values like Mar-a-Lago, made it ridiculous. But the expert, after having all of this, testified it's one of the best financial statements he's ever seen. And I was honored by that. But I also knew we have a corrupt judge. He's not a respected man. And again, I said before, he's been overturned on this case by the appellate division 4 times already. It's a record. Nobody's ever been overturned on one case 4 times. And I think very importantly, and I think ultimately the most important, we've employed tens of thousands of people in New York, and we paid taxes like few other people have ever paid in New York. And they don't care about that. It's a state that's going bust. It's a state that's going bust because everybody's leaving. And it's all headed up by Biden, who's destroying our country. So this is Russia. This is China. This is what you've been reading about all your lives. And it's happening right here in our country. Thank you very much. We will stop it. We will make America great again. You have my word. Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah, I wanted you to hear that, especially because it's hot off the press, so to speak. He just issued that statement. And I think it was pretty good, pretty spot on. Obviously, look, the bottom line is today was not a good day as far as if you love Donald Trump. Frankly, if you love America, it wasn't a good day. It really, in my opinion, is above and beyond politics, as I've been explaining for the many reasons I've been explaining. This is a bad day for America. It's definitely a bad day on one hand for Donald Trump because of the New York case, but I think he's got great news coming. on this case out of Fulton County, Georgia. And if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I have been more concerned about this Rico case than any of the other cases, mainly because this Rico, quote, Rico case was a state charge. And on a state level, if he becomes president again, he cannot just pardon himself on that case. And another thing that is troubling, if you are technically convicted on a Rico statute in the state of Georgia, it's a mandatory 20 years in prison. There is no discretion by the judge. So you're talking about a matter that is as serious as a matter can be. So always remember that anytime we're thinking about it. So I wanted to point out, Jacqueline, thank you for joining us today. And yes, Fani Willis was definitely the cash cow. Yeah, I think she was definitely the cash cow. I just, there's not a whole lot of things I like about Fani Willis. It's unfortunate too, because being a Black woman, she could be an excellent example to other young minority girls in particular on how to achieve things for yourself in life. And then when they turn around and play this race card and they commit blasphemy in church, and even her dad on the witness stand today, he was talking about race and talking about how because they're Black, they put money in the house. Like white people don't do that, or Hispanic people don't do that. It's just really weird to me. It's just really, really nuts. I'd be interested as to what all y'all think about as far as this goes, because I often quote Chief Justice John Roberts, who said, and I'm paraphrasing, that if you want to stop dividing people by race, putting people in a box and, they're this race and they're that race, the way you stop it is real simple. You stop putting people in boxes by race and their skin color. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. Stop it. Stop it. As Joe Biden would say, don't. All right, look, it's Grady of Sanford and Son. That's about right. All right, Mr. Frost, thank you for joining us today. Oh, yeah, we talked about that. Sorry about that, my friend. I turned that down for you. I got you down on there. All right, you are welcome. And my friend, don't believe the left. Oh, okay. Well, you are most welcome. I am. Listen, folks, when it comes to talking and having a discussion with you, when I tell you that I am really appreciative you take time to join me today, I don't care if I have 10 people. I don't care if it's one of my better nights and I'm pushing 500. It is my pleasure, and you honor me by taking time to stop by and chat with me. I can promise you I don't make any money. Well, it's very limited money doing this, and that's only been recently. It's not for the money. I do it because I enjoy doing it. I feel good when I am helping people. And you'd be surprised, things that seem like they're easy to you and to me. There's a lot of people that are new to the country, or maybe they forgot stuff from when they were a kid, or maybe for whatever reason, they just weren't exposed to things that we take for granted. And when they contact me asking, how does the country work? How does the government work? Why is this? Why is that? It really brings me a sense of joy to help people. I always try to steer away from indoctrinating anybody, especially when it comes to opinions. And I simply tell people, here's what people say, make your own judgment. And it brings me a lot of pride, a lot of joy, knowing that I've helped people. And like I said, and comments like my buddy here on the left, or don't believe the left, it humbles me, and I appreciate each and every one. And listen, I'm going to cut it. I will try to be back on tomorrow, so make sure you hit the subscribe button, because when I go live, you'll know about it. And I generally always put it out an hour or two ahead of time, so you should see it on your feed. Just make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that bell notification. I know we don't like to have a bunch of alerts because our phone is always clicking, but if you limit it and do it for my account, for example, you'll know when I'm back on, and you can go ahead and join, because we really all need to come together often and have a conversation. But if I don't cut it now, my girlfriend is not going to be too happy. So in the spirit of making everybody happy, I'm going to go ahead and tell you all, as I always say, keep that mind free. Never give up. And until next time, my friends, I am J.R. Dukes. Thank you.